Hello, I'm Dylan.
And I'm Keon.
This is Trust Your Doctor, that podcast where we cook a turkey in the time vortex, because this week we watched The Time of the Doctor.
Written by Steven Moffat.
Directed by Jamie Payne.
And aired on December 25th, 2013.
The swan song of the 11th Doctor. We finally made it. Wraps up all the loose ends you could have ever had. Keon's laughing.
Wraps up is a loose end itself, or loose term to use itself. I like the attempt. A for effort. The participation
B
trophy.
for execution.
Yeah. Some of it was pretty good, I feel like.
Some of it was pretty good. Some of it was mediocre.
I like the episode overall. I really do. I think it's the best Christmas episode of Doctor Who.
So far.
So far, yeah.
There are still better to come.
The Feast of Stephen is up there now.
Yeah, sure. April Fools.
Where's our April Fool's Doctor Who episode?
We didn't release one this year.
No, but I mean like of the show.
Oh, I don't know. Ask Chris Chibnall.
I mean, I guess we just ruined that. You know, the people in the future listening to this podcast who then go back in time and create Doctor Who are like, oh shoot, now for the first 50 years of the show, we can't do one. Damn.
Oh no. What a loss.
So yeah, Steven Moffat helming his own finale.
Yeah. He wanted to kind of wrap up everything leading into the 12th Doctor, because again, the 12th Doctor is kind of a clean break almost from the 11th. More so than the 10th was from the 9th, I think, in terms of within showrunners, Doctor changes. Although, at the end of this episode makes it pretty clear that Clara is still sticking around at least for one more episode.
Yeah, and I mean, I pretty much, I don't know for sure, but I think she stays for the rest of the next season, or at least like a good ways into that. But again, I don't know.
No spoilers. Although I will say that the next season is my least favorite 12th Doctor season of the three, so I have to get through that first. But anyway, this was pretty straightforward, actually. Steven Moffat just wanted to wrap everything up, and he did. Apparently, the reason why Matt Smith is wearing a wig in this episode is because he had shaved his head for a role in a movie.
Huh.
And so he had to wear a wig to get the hairstyle.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, Karen Gillan was also wearing a wig because she had just shaved her head to play Nebula in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Huh.
So both of them were actually wearing wigs in this episode.
Yeah, I didn't know that was a wig. I thought maybe he just like shaved his head and they just filmed those scenes last.
As a joke.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that is, like, that wouldn't be out of the question, and that's definitely what I assumed watching it as well, but apparently no, he's actually just wearing a wig the whole time because he actually shaved his head for a movie role.
They make a joke about like how his eyebrows aren't very like prominent. And they're like, oh, you shaved your eyebrows too? And he's like, no, they're actually still there.
And that was about all that was like really interesting about this, except that Matt Smith filmed an additional scene that we haven't seen yet, that I'm not going to spoil when we see it, during the filming of this. And Peter Capaldi, during the filming of this episode, was when he filmed his cameo for Day of the Doctor as well.
Huh.
His little eyebrow cameo.
That makes sense.
So that's that. Wow. Peter Capaldi's announcement as the Doctor was the first one that I remember watching the announcement. I didn't watch it live, but like going back and watching it before his season aired, I was like, I want to see what this announcement looks like, and everyone's really excited. That's all that I remember about that.
I mean, I don't remember. I wasn't as tuned in as you were, but like I remember that era of like, okay, now the next season's gonna have Peter Capaldi, and everyone's waiting for Peter Capaldi. I remember that.
Yeah,
era.
There was a lot of trepidation, I guess is the word, because obviously he was different than the other three reboot Doctors we've gotten.
Right. Yeah, I've heard the 9th, 10th, and 11th referred to as like the boy band Doctors, and then this Peter Capaldi's like kind of coming out of that again.
Yeah.
Although really, like, I don't know. I haven't watched any Capaldi episodes, obviously, but it feels like rather than like a return to what the classic show Doctor was, it feels like Capaldi is like
he is sort of a
in
bridge.
sync plus 20 years, or like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to spoil too much, but I think he serves as like a nice sort of bridge between the two. without spoiling, because we'll obviously get there in 2 weeks.
Clearly, yeah, we're pretty eager to get to the 12th Doctor because
because he's my favorite Doctor. So
is that
because he's recent, or because
no? I mean, like, because he was when you first started watching Doctor Who, like as the episodes were new, it was the 12th Doctor, right?
Yeah, but I think it's because he has like by far the most character development and the most interesting character of all of them, and I think he's played by the most talented actor.
Huh. So,
yeah, giving Tom Baker a real run for his money. But
we'll see.
First, we have to get through this, and next week, in case you're not familiar with our usual scheduling now, ever since I think about the 4th Doctor, we've been splitting off the Doctor-specific retrospectives into their own episodes. So next week, we'll be doing an 11th Doctor retrospective, and then after that, we'll be getting to the 12th Doctor.
We still don't have any plans for like what we're going to be doing for that, but
probably nothing at this
wing
point.
It, yeah, probably.
So the episode begins with the Doctor he walks into like this citadel-looking thing with a Dalek eye stalk in his hand.
Yeah, we get some narration about a planet that's sending out like a distress signal type thing.
Yeah.
Or just a signal. Like a coded message, and nobody can really tell what the message says, but it's broadcasting over like a very large area, and a lot of different species from a lot of different planets show up at this planet, and the Doctor's there.
Yeah, he's in the Citadel thing, and the Daleks come out and like, what are you doing with our eye stalk? He's like, oh shoot. He runs back into the TARDIS. He's like, Handles, I told you to put me down on any ship, but would have been nice not to be put on a Dalek ship holding the broken eye stalk of a Dalek. And Handles is like, oops.
Yeah, I thought I missed something here because Handles is introduced pretty abruptly.
Yeah, he kind of comes out of nowhere. He's, I guess, the Doctor's temporary replacement for Clara while she's off at home.
Well, Clara is sort of an on-again, off-again companion anyway. So.
Yeah.
The Doctor references later that he picked up Handles at the, what was it called? The Maldivarian, whatever it was, market.
Something like that.
We don't ever, like, see that, do we?
No. Not as far as I know.
I thought there was like a mini-sode that I missed or something, but no,
I don't believe so,
not. No, there's not. I mean, I looked it up, and there's nothing.
Much like Day of the Doctor, it kind of doesn't follow immediately from the previous episode.
Yeah. Handles is interesting, though. You can... Yeah, I don't know.
You miss him already. I miss him already. He had a special place in my heart. Poor Handles.
I mean, like, compare Handles to, like, the Star Wars droids.
I mean, compare Handles to Chameleon.
I'm surprised Doctor Who has actually never, like, done the whole droid thing.
Especially, like, K9.
That's true. That is very true. Can't believe K9 is just too human to me. It's too much a part of the human experience.
But which K9?
All of them.
The John Leeson one or the David Bradley one?
No, I thought you were talking about like K9 Mark II versus Mark I.
No.
All of them. Just any K9, any version. Except that K9 versus Omega monstrosity.
What are you talking about? TV was created to put K9 versus Omega on our screens. K9. Beep, boop, beep, boop, beep.
Do, 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 do.
So the Doctor gets a phone call.
Taking a sip of wine, right? You can't see it, but I'm staring into the camera. The non-existent camera.
We should just get a big bottle of brandy or something and drink that while doing the 11th Doctor retrospective. That can be what we do.
No, we need to, it needs to be fish fingers and custard on recording. Which I tried, by the way, and it wasn't as sickening as you might think.
So the Doctor gets a phone call. The phone is still in the front of the TARDIS, and the Doctor tells Handles to remind him at a random period of time to patch it back into the console. Apparently, spoiler alert, Handles decides to wait 300 years before telling the Doctor to patch the telephone back into the console.
Yeah, as soon as the Doctor mentions the random amount of time thing, you're like, all right, this is going to come back in some humorous little quip at the end of the episode, isn't it?
Well, it wasn't really humorous.
Turns out it comes out at like this heartbreaking moment.
But the doctor picks up, and it's Clara. And she's like, panic. I accidentally told my family you're my boyfriend for Christmas. He's like, oh, well, I'm a little rusty in some departments. I'll have to read a manual.
I accidentally made up this elaborate backstory for myself. That's what she does. So the doctor goes and visits London, Christmas 2013, presumably. And, okay, so is it a British tradition to wear these crowns at Christmas?
I'm going to say yes.
Yeah,
because I know my family did it.
Huh.
They come out of the Christmas crackers, so I'm kind of surprised they're wearing it now because
yeah, they haven't opened
the crackers yet. But you're supposed to. The crackers usually come with a crown, and then like a joke or like a little toy or something, and then you put whoever gets the. If you don't know how Christmas crackers work, you basically break them with the person sitting next to you, and whoever gets the bigger side. Gets to keep whatever's in the cracker, and then you put the crown on, and you get the little prize inside. So,
yeah, it's a fun tradition.
And then if you're really unlucky, then like all the crackers you break, you get none of them.
Yeah, well, I was watching the 5-ish Doctors, which I watched part of, and it was really interesting. I'm going to go back and finish it. And they were wearing these crowns as well for Christmas, I guess.
Yeah, but they come out of the crackers, so I don't know why they're wearing them now. My note here is I didn't even realize that Clara's parents were still alive.
Her dad is.
That's her mom, too. In that house.
I thought it was her.
It's her dad and her mom.
I thought
and
it was
her grandma.
But her mom died.
That's what I thought.
No, her mom. I think that was her dad's like girlfriend.
Pretty sure she called her mom.
Or like stepmom or something. I think it was her stepmom. Like we'd have to wiki this, but I'm pretty sure her mom died.
I thought her mom died too, which is why I was like so shocked.
I was shocked that her dad was there. I was like, I would have bet money that her dad was dead.
Oh, Linda. She's like doesn't even have a relationship.
Like, yeah, nobody knows who. It doesn't really say who she is.
The Doctor Who website claims that Linda is Clara's stepmother.
Knew it.
Source needed. That's actually what it says on the wiki. Source needed.
Because also, like, the way they portray her parents in the Rings of Akhaten, it would be really weird if her mom was kind of like the antagonist of these home scenes, like in those scenes.
Yes,
does that make sense?
But it would also be really weird for her dad to like
be alive.
Remarry.
Just kidding. But apparently
given like
he
the
did.
dedication he showed to keeping this leaf around.
No, like, yeah, I don't know. That's what I assumed, and apparently I was right. So there you go.
Keon just made a really like arrogant motion. Would have been really good if we caught on camera, but we didn't. But then the Doctor shows up, not wearing any clothes, apparently, because he was going to the church, and you're not allowed to wear clothes at the chch for some unspecified reason.
We don't know what the church is yet, but it's a Steven Moffat episode, so it's going to have some religious shit in it. Sorry. Sorry, you're going to have to bleep that out.
It'll be funnier when it's bleeped.
It's true. But yeah, you're not allowed to wear clothes in church.
For some reason, the church got really weird in like a couple centuries.
Is this the church of the...
Yeah.
It's the same church?
The Doctor says it's called the Church of the Papal Mainframe. And then when the Doctor goes down to, spoilers, as Trenzalore, Tasha Lem says she's rebranding it as the Church of the Silence.
Oh, okay. So the closed projection thing only works on like a person-to-person basis?
There's even, I guess you missed it, there's even a line where she explains why Kovarian went back and blew up the Doctor's TARDIS.
I got that.
Okay.
But it's not explicit enough to like...
Well, she says it's the Kovarian chapter of the church.
Yeah, which was like an offshoot, I guess. Yeah. But like, yeah.
But anyway, the Doctor's not wearing clothes, but he projects someone to Clara's eyeballs, and they go out, and he's like, maybe I should project them onto your family's eyeballs too. She's like, you're not wearing clothes right now. And he's like, nope. So that's a thing.
So then they just leave. I forget why they do this, but the Doctor takes Clara
because the turkey isn't going to be done in time.
Yeah.
So the Doctor's like, well, I guess we can cook it in the TARDIS. And then
the time vortex.
Yeah. Which seems like overkill to me, but...
Remember when, like... Who was it? I guess it was Amy, like, got seriously effed up by the time vortex.
Yeah.
They're just using
Remember how everything got messed up by the time vortex? Remember how the one time they left the TARDIS door open while they flew through the time vortex? They shrunk to, like, ant size and we got Planets of the Giants? But Clara just rides the outside of the TARDIS in this episode all fine.
She wasn't fine. She was near death.
She could have been shrunk, though, so she'd be counting her blessings. Ungrateful little...
Wow. Clara is pretty much my favorite reboot companion.
Wow.
Sorry, new series companion. I am making an effort to not call it the reboot. Because it's not
It's all about
technically
Donna.
Daniel Martinez, if you're still listening to this.
It's all about Donna. Donna's way.
It's like a pretty big amount is about Donna. Like,
Okay,
yeah, sure.
well, don't worry. Steven Moffat will do his best to make you hate Clara in Series 8.
Why is it that every companion, like, their first season is pretty solid, you know, Rose, Amy, apparently Clara. And then there's just this cliff that they fall off of.
Second season woes.
It's like the second season 2 curse.
We'll see if Chibnall's companions go through the same thing or not. But they fly back to the planet because the Doc's like, well, I'm still trying to figure out this planet. He mentions that the pteroleptals are there. And I was like, now that's a throwback.
Yeah, so I think they encounter the church before they go down.
Yeah, because that's why the Doctor was wearing no clothes. Because the church has shielded the planet, which is why no one's gone down to investigate the signal yet.
Yeah, and we see a projection of Tasha, who's the one in charge. I forget her actual title. But she invites the Doctor.
Mother or something like that.
Yeah, it was something like that. She invites the Doctor and just the Doctor, and Clara just kind of tags along.
Clara has to remove her clothes as well.
Yeah.
Project those clothes onto everyone's eyeballs.
Right.
They walk in and she's like, I feel like I'm wearing nothing. And the doctors are like, it's freeing, isn't it?
Clara doesn't agree. But then they meet Tasha, and she's a very big personality.
And she apparently has history with the Doctor that is exclusively limited to not the 11th incarnation.
Right,
she mentions this being a new body.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, this old thing, I've been rocking this for a couple 100 years now. Which is true since he ran away from his death at Lake Silencio for like 100 years.
Yeah, the 11th Doctor's time span is actually greater than that of most Doctors.
Yeah, of like all the Doctors before this combined almost.
Yeah. Well, if you think back to like the second Doctor, it's like his stories were somewhat continuous. It was a very short amount of time he spent as the second Doctor.
10th Doctor is even less. I think, like, canonically, actually, the 10th Doctor is
It's the shortest.
The shortest lived incarnation.
That's
in terms of time.
There doesn't seem to be anything dictating how short or long the incarnations are, other than like random chance.
But, like, the 10th Doctors, you can tell because, like, the 9th Doctor says something like he's 900 years old, and then, like, the 11th Doctor's like, I'm 906 or something, which means the 10th Doctor lived for like 6 years and then ate it. And the 11th Doctor's over here living for like 400.
But yeah, Tasha sort of takes the Doctor into a separate room.
Yeah.
And there's some sexual tension between them.
Well, there's some silence.
Yeah, there's a silent. And Clara's like, what are you?
And then she forgets him.
And it's already suspect that a silent is even there. I like how they do this because I guess it just this is mostly just me being dumb while watching this, I think, because I think most people would make this connection, but like I didn't make the connection between this church and the Church of the Silence stupidly. So I was like, oh man, a silent has infiltrated their ranks.
Yeah, but then the Doctor just explains to Clara that they're confessional priests and they were genetically engineered for you to forget everything you tell them, and then that's why you forget them when you see them, conveniently wrapping that plotline up. Plotline 1 wrapped up.
Yeah,
here we go.
Let's just bring this up now, is like, this is the way they do it in this episode, or rather, this is the way Steven Moffat does it in this episode, is he brings up something that he created, really cool concepts actually, like the Silence, or the Angels, or Covarian, and then just wraps them up in one line.
Yeah.
In order to get to his time
grand
shenanigans.
master plan, I guess. I don't know. This is one of those moments where, and I want to talk about this at the end, where I think Steven Moffat like overextended himself trying to connect everything together.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think we're going to have, again, like you said at the end, we'll talk about Steven Moffat, and there's no way we can avoid talking about Steven Moffat next week in the 11th Doctor retrospective.
Right. Just like there was no way to avoid talking about Russell T talking like about the Ninth Doctor.
I know, but when you say talking about Russell T, there's a positive connotation to that. And when you say talking about Steven Moffat,
connotation
there's not necessarily that same positive connotation.
But there's not necessarily a negative one either.
No. But I feel like there is. But I feel like there is no negative connotation to say, "Oh, I'm going to talk about Russell T Davies and Doctor Who."
I guess.
Well, to me, I mean, I'm sure there are people who hate that era, but there's already Chibnall haters like recommended for me on YouTube how I almost said Doctor Chibnall. How Chibnall ruined Doctor Who.
There's always going to be that, though. I mean, there was how did JNT ruin Doctor Who when that was a thing, and
but there weren't.
How did
YouTube
Pippin Baker ruin Doctor Who? Where's my Pippin Baker show run Doctor Who?
Pippin Jane Baker.
Yeah. Where's the version of the show where they show run?
Terror the Vervoid / all the Ronnie episodes. That was their version of it.
I liked Terror of the Vervoids, though.
Yeah, that was
like their best episode.
It was. Young Chris Chibnall really gave them crap for like the wrong episode. Terror of the Vervoids was like, it was all right. It was solid.
Yeah, but I guess you have to consider that like you're comparing it to a whole lot of poo. So,
what, like Time in the Ronnie?
Yeah. And like every other story that has a byline written by Pippin Jane Baker. So,
what was the fourth story by them? It was Terror of the Vervoids, Mark of the Ronnie, which was good, and Time in the Ronnie, which was all right, questionable. There was another one, I think.
Well, how about we just look it up? Pip and Jane Baker. The Ultimate Foe, Part 14 only.
Oh, wow. That's actually their best episode. That's the best Sixth Doctor episode, in my opinion.
That's a 2-part story where the better part was written by everybody else working on the show.
Well, what did it say?
Part 14 only.
Oh, so only episode 2. But episode 2 is really good, too. Episode 1's cliffhanger is like pretty much the best cliffhanger in all of Doctor Who.
Yeah, well, episode 1 was written by Pippin Jane. I think it was written by Robert Holmes, wasn't it?
I don't remember. With a close second of "Welcome to the Sanctuary" in State of Decay.
Really?
No.
I would say the greatest cliffhanger in Doctor Who history is when is the first episode of Edge of Destruction.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the Gunfighters, where the Doctor's about to have his tooth removed.
I can barely remember most of the cliffhangers from this show. So,
yeah, same here. Unfortunately, the new series opts not to do cliffhangers.
Opts not to do bad cliffhangers.
Well, okay, what's like the best cliffhanger from the new show? Because I can't even think of one.
Damn. Oh, at the end of
even like
Silence in the Library. Oh, that one was.
Remind me what that one was again.
I can barely remember, but that was the only one that I can think of as like us saying was any good when we watched it. So back to the story at hand. The Doctor talks with Tasha Lem and convinces her to let him teleport down. And she takes his TARDIS key away from him because he can summon the TARDIS with the TARDIS key.
Yeah, we forgot to mention that Handels has identified the planet as Gallifrey, and the Doctor gets really mad and he says it's not Gallifrey. I would know what Gallifrey was if I saw it.
Right.
And plus Gallifrey is still stuck in the alternate pocket dimension or whatever.
Is it?
Did they resolve the...
the one thing I didn't talk about, sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, go ahead.
In Day of the Doctor that always bothered me was how the Doctor, the War Doctor, and the 10th Doctor break out of the Gallifrey Falls painting in the Black Archive. But, like, that's the painting that they stored Gallifrey in. So, like, when they broke out into the archive, like, doesn't that let Gallifrey into the archive? Or, like, I never understood how that worked.
Saw there was the hand thing in the last stuff that you might miss. So, I don't know, I guess, yeah.
And I was like, how did they even get into that painting? Anyway, what were you
They
saying?
explained it. Did they ever resolve the Zygon thing from Time of the Doctor?
From Time of the Doctor?
Day was it
Day of the Doctor?
Day of the Doctor, yeah.
The one from
God,
last
these
week, the
3
50th
episodes.
anniversary?
Yeah.
Not yet.
Not yet.
We have to wait till spoilers season 9.
Wow. Wow.
Gonna wait a whole nother season for that. Sorry, buddy. So the Doctor and Clara go down and they get attacked by weeping angels who are just chilling in this.
Yeah, they're in sort of a snowfield and there's some buried weeping angels.
Who apparently got there before the church did.
This.
Yeah, by summoning the TARDIS.
Weeping angels, check.
Yeah, check. So where are we now? Silence, check. Weeping angels, check.
Well, those are the 2 biggest ones. God.
Well, and the Kavarian chapter, check.
Yeah.
Silence will fall at Trenzalore, check. Doctor's grave at Trenzalore, check. Doctor Who, check. Got them all.
Oldest question, well, as part of Doctor Who, oldest question in the universe, check.
Doctor's regeneration cycle ending, check.
God, the Silence and the Angels had so much potential.
Moving on. Moving on. We're past them. We're past that. We're past that. The Doctor takes the TARDIS he takes them into town. And turns out there's a
town
truth
called
field.
Christmas.
Yeah, it's a town called Christmas. Bloody brilliant, Stephen. And there's a truth field in the town, so they're not allowed to lie. Clara says that she's only traveling with the Doctor because she kind of fancies him.
Yeah, they're
the
about
Doctor
to
conveniently ignores the statement.
Yeah, they're walking by these 2 townspeople, and the Doctor's like, he nudges Clara and he's like, all right, be sure to lie about who we are and why we're here. And they just blurt out, the truth.
And they're like, maybe you should stop talking. And they're like, well, for what? And they're like, because the truth field, you haven't got used to it yet.
In a funny line, the Doctor asks the couple, like, doesn't that make life really annoying? And I think the woman says no, and the man says yes.
But they go inside the tower.
Yeah, the sort of bell tower.
Oh yeah, the
thing.
master, check, because the Doctor now pulls out this random little dial thing and he chucks it to Handles and he's like, pulled this off the master in the death zone. Use this to translate the message. Because, cracks in the universe, check.
Yeah, well, the master hasn't been a part of the show since season 3, I think.
4. He was in the 10th Doctor's final episode. The Master Race thing, remember?
Yeah, season 4. So before Steven Moffat, it even
although I guess
Doctor Who with a 10-foot. No, it's not true. It's not true.
I don't know which master the Doctor pulled this little dial off of, but he does, and the Doctor
he's referring to the 4th Doctor episode, whatever it was called, right?
Yeah,
Deadly Assassin.
That's what I assumed, but you can never really know with Steven. But the Doctor figures that the reason why Handles identified the planet as Gallifrey is because on the other side of the crack it is Gallifrey, and the message is probably coming through from there. So he tells Handles to use the quantum signature of the dial that he gives him from the Master to translate the message. So Handles does, and he's like, warning, translation will be available to everyone. And I was like, it should be fine, just translate it. Little did he know he would come to regret that statement about 3 seconds later when the translation is revealed to be Doctor Who. Doctor Who.
So all the people who know this name, and the Doctor trying to hide his name, check.
Yeah.
And failing, check.
Oh yeah, he even mentions later the Daleks. He's like, you shouldn't know anything about me. And they're like, we harvested everything we needed to know from Tasha Lem. And he's like, damn.
Yeah, so now all the Doctor's known enemies and people who just know him from the Time War are here, ready to
and just all those other random ships that were just chilling, like the pteroleptals, who was, as far as I can tell, have no quarrel with the Doctor, really, except for that time they started the London Fire together.
So this begins this stalemate, which, if I remember correctly, is the Doctor can't go anywhere because if they do, they're going to blast the planet because the Time Lords are trying to get out of the crack.
Right.
But they can't blast the planet because why can't they blast
because
the
if the
planet
Doctor
again?
says because And the reason why the truth field is there is to make sure the Doctor doesn't lie. And the reason why they're asking the question is because if the Doctor answers it, the Time Lords will know that they can come through. So if they blast the planet, the Doctor can say his name and bring the Time Lords back and start the Time War anew.
Yeah.
But the Doctor can't leave because then they're going to blast the planet if he's not there.
Whose bright idea was it to use the Doctor's name as a code name or code word to know when it's safe?
I bet it was Rassilon.
The plan of Rassilon.
Exactly. The Dalek master plan of Rassilon.
So the Doctor is now...
Well, the Doctor sends Clara back, a la Steven Moffat does Rose Tyler.
Yeah, I guess. Oh, Steven Moffat doing Russell T things? Check.
I mean, it's the same. It's like basically, it's even almost played out exactly the same way. He's like, "Hey, can you go put this in the TARDIS?" So she runs and puts it in the TARDIS, and then boom, it teleports her. Or the TARDIS transports her home. And she's like, "Damn it!"
This is also really annoying in like a funny way. Of like, Clara clearly lives on like one of the upper stories of this apartment, so every time this happens, she runs up and runs down and runs up and runs down.
These flats. This is the one other interesting thing about the filming of this is that this was filmed at the same location. They filmed Rose Tyler and Jackie Tyler's place, actually.
Huh. Wow, that looks completely different.
Yeah, I think it's the backside.
Yeah. Is that in Cardiff?
Yeah.
Huh.
I believe so.
I guess Cardiff is a good stand-in for London.
Well, we've known this before. But Clara grabs the TARDIS key, which is in the lock, as the TARDIS is dematerializing. And then we get kind of a montage of the Doctor defeating some enemies who are coming down. We see Dan Starkey as Strax, another Steven Moffat thing. Check off the list. Not as Strax, as a Sontaran, I mean.
Yeah, driving an invisible car.
An invisible car, and then the Doctor like removes the invisibility so they get blasted by the church. Because Tasha rebrands the church from the Church of the Papal Mainframe, which is what it was before, into the Church of the Silence.
And this is where we get that line about Kovarian, which was too little too late. I mean...
I guess.
Yeah. We get the idea that Kovarian's offshoot was an offshoot and had other plans from the main church, which their plan to stop... They actually were working towards the same thing, interestingly enough. They were trying to stop the Doctor from accessing...
Yeah, it's kind of like a rogue faction.
Yeah.
Because they wanted to stop the Doctor from saying his name or even ever getting to Trenzalore. And the Doctor makes a point about how this was kind of ironic because her attempts to stop him are what are actually causing this, because the Time Lords are trying to get through a crack in the universe left by the Doctor's TARDIS exploding, which was caused by Kovarian trying to stop the Doctor from saying his name. He calls it the Destiny Trap.
Yeah, I feel like this idea... or like this entire plot is really interesting, but it's approached in like such a weird way of like, first you get the cracks and then you find out it's Kovarian, and then in this like little 2-sentence thing, you find out what Kovarian was really doing. Yep. Like after you stop caring.
And then now we're moving on. We're past it. Gone.
Exactly.
We're past it. Plot's moving forward. You gotta keep up.
Like, what if Kovarian was the like big bad, like ultimate villain of the 11th Doctor's era?
What if Kovarian was just Tasha Lim in this episode instead, and then they were actually friends beforehand, and then she like goes rogue and is like, "Screw you, Doctor," and then goes back in time?
Like, what if Kovarian was handled like well?
Wow, that's brutal. It was all going so well until it wasn't. But the TARDIS comes back 300 years later.
So this starts this thing of the Doctor stays in Christmas for 300 years being the protector of the town, because different factions try and invade the town and they kill people, and the Doctor stops them. He stops a wooden Cyberman. Getting real creative there with their ways to stop the Doctor.
Yeah, well, the voiceover even says this, that the villains found more and more like creative ways to try to break around the... Because the shielding is still up, but like the wooden Cyberman, it doesn't have any technology really in it, which is why I could get through the shield. The Sonic doesn't work on wood, but the Doctor still cunningly defeats the Cyberman by turning his flamethrower on himself.
Right.
Wooden Cyberman was kind of cool, not gonna lie.
How do you create circuitry and all that kind of stuff with like just wood and like leaves probably?
Let's not think about it too hard, shall we? And then when the TARDIS comes back, the Doctor's kind of older now. He's got wrinkles and he has to walk with a cane.
Yeah. And this, I don't know. This is the part of like from here until the end of the episode is when I was like, all right, I'm liking this episode now. Like I like this idea of like the 11th Doctor now has to stay here and protect these people.
The Doctor seems to have developed some sort of at least slight resistance to the truth field or clever ways to get around it, because the boy asks him if he's going to leave now that the TARDIS is back. And instead of just saying yes or no, as the truth field would have made him say the correct answer, he just kind of looks at the boy and just says, eh, and then goes into the TARDIS.
So Clara comes back.
And the Doctor kind of chastises her for this. He's like, no wonder the TARDIS is 300 years late.
Yeah,
lucky you around.
I know, but they're just happy to see each other because Clara has almost died because she was on the outside of the TARDIS in the time vortex.
Yeah, well,
gotta wonder what happened to that turkey. Like they're ingesting this turkey that went through the same process. It's already dead, but then again. I mean, I like this moment, and like I don't know. To me,
it's
like
a happy reunion.
Yeah, Clara. The reason
Before
why I
the downpour of sadness that's about to begin about 5 minutes later when Handles bites the dust.
Yeah, well, the reason why I like Clara so much was made clear to me in this episode. It didn't start in this episode, because looking back on stories like Rings of Akaten, and even The Bells of St. John and stuff, is like Clara is way more heroic than most of the new series companions. And I don't know, I like that. It's like, it's simplistic, but...
It's interesting that you bring that up because Steven Moffat will take that to its logical extreme conclusion in her write-out.
Huh.
And that's all I'll say about that.
All right.
I like that aspect of her character, but I think a lot of people dislike Clara because of Series 8, where that specific aspect of her character gets, in some ways, overplayed by a different character who gets introduced, and in other ways, said other character infringes upon her, I guess, quote, responsibility, unquote, as a companion.
Okay, well, I have no idea what you're talking about, so I'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah.
But yeah, they have this reunion. The Doctor explains how he's been protecting the town and how finally he's found a place that needs him. And then Clara
needs him to stay.
Yeah, well, Clara also mentions that well, you didn't have the TARDIS, so that helped you stay. And the Doctor's like, oh yeah, let's not talk about that.
He's like, I would have found a way.
And I don't know, you gotta wonder, would the 11th Doctor have stayed if he had the TARDIS?
Yeah, he would have.
I think he would have. Maybe not for the 300 years, but
You have to remember there's a truth field active right now, so it's not like he can just lie about leaving if the TARDIS is there.
I guess. 11th Doctor being dark and having his
dark
own...
and booty.
Yeah.
Check. And then he takes Clara up to the ceiling, to the roof, to see the sunrise, because it only lasts a few minutes, apparently.
This is somewhere up in the Arctic Circle of this planet, probably.
And this is the sad moment where Handles is dying, and the Doctor's like, no, come on, Handles, one more sunrise. And he goes, urgent information. And he's like, what? Got a patch telephone back through the console. Then he dies. The Doctor's like, Handles? Handles? No! Nissa! And Clara can see that the Doctor's pretty torn up about this.
Right.
But
I forget what happens next. But Clara gets sent back again.
Well, the Doctor and Clara go up to see Tasha.
Yeah, and now the Silents are fully on display. They're there with the regular soldiers.
Yeah, I mean, also part of the voiceover was talking about how the Doctor and, quote, his ancient enemies, the Silents, unquote, fought together side by side. I was like, ancient enemies, really?
Yeah, but I question, did this thing even need to be in the story of, the Doctor teaming up with the Silents?
Yeah, it's the team up of the century. What's that meme? Infinity War is the most ambitious crossover in history. Me. Just picture the Doctor teaming up with the Silents. Alternatively, a picture of John Cleese in the museum in that 4th Doctor episode.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's something that I'm going to talk about at the end when I talk about Steven Moffat overextending himself.
So much potential. so much. The Silence and the Angels are like the most iconic new series
creations.
Yeah.
What about the Slovene?
That's what I was going to say. Like, what's next? The Slovene?
Yeah, man. What do you have against the Slovene?
They're not as awesome as the Silence or the Angels.
Slovene came a lot closer to winning, though.
But so what? Plus, the Angels aren't necessarily concerned with winning so much as just, like, living. And I know we mentioned that in Blink, is like, the Angels are just trying to survive, man.
Yeah,
like,
but that got thrown out of the window in, like, Angels Take Manhattan, where they were literally farming people's bodies for, like... right, just concerned with survival.
Well, that's why I said Blink.
So then it's revealed that Tasha's been taken over. Oh yeah, those Dalek bot things that they introduced in Asylum of the Daleks. Check. Tasha's
when
been
you
taken
snap,
over.
you make a check mark with your fingers.
Yep.
I mean, if you extend your thumb, it's like, how would you not?
Yeah, kind of hard not to. So you also make a finger gun. Pew pew. After discovering that she's a Dalek, the Doctor is able to convince the real Tasha to break the programming. This is when we have that line that the Daleks harvested everything they needed to know about the Doctor from Tasha.
Right.
Because remember, he deleted himself from all their databases. The Cybermen already figured out who he is because he could be reconstructed by the hole you left. The Teleleptals probably were like, who the hell is this dude? Like they barely even knew him to begin with. But then Clara and the Doctor teleport back down, and then the Doctor, I guess, lies. Again, this is what I was like, I guess he like developed an immunity to the truth field, because Clara's like, tell me you'll never send me away again. He's like, I promise I'll never send you away again. And then he leaves the TARDIS, and she's like, oh, turkey's done. As she's getting the turkey, it flies away with her back to her home.
Yeah.
And this time it dematerializes before she has a chance to grab the key because she's holding the turkey.
I'm sure whoever created the truth field didn't expect anyone to live for like 300 years within it. Because there's also like, and this will be shown in the next scenes, the scenes that are coming up, is that these people go through generations, and the Doctor is like this figure in their town. Mm-hmm. And at one point, the Doctor calls like this kid,
Barnable or something.
Yeah, the name of the kid he was talking to earlier, but it's not him. It's like his
great granddad or something, or his granddad.
So Clara goes back. We see another scene in her house with her family,
where she's out crying.
Yeah, and this is where the stepmom is kind of
being
snarky.
A little bastard.
Yeah, but then we get a story from her grandmother about how she met Clara's grandfather, and in that story she says that she saw him and she wished she could just see him like that forever, and she didn't want him to change. Mm-hmm. That comes back later in the episode.
Oh yeah, that comes back big. And Deep Breath is the name of the 12th Doctor's first episode. And it's the TARDIS. She hears the TARDIS outside. She runs out, and Tasha Lem is piloting. She's like, "You can pilot the TARDIS." She's like, piloting the TARDIS is easy.
Yeah, apparently. I mean, we already knew this, but the Doctor's just bad at it.
I mean, we also found out that one time the TARDIS was designed to be piloted by 8 people.
Yeah.
Or 6 people, I guess, actually, which is why the original TARDIS console was always a hexagon.
Yeah, yeah.
But she tells Clara that the Doctor should be with friends when he dies, and she's like, wait, what? You get back, and the Doctor's like 900 years old now. He looks a lot like the first Doctor.
Man, I saw this thing on Twitter the other day that was like, when you realize Matthew Waterhouse is older now than William Hartnell was when he started playing the first Doctor.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. When you realize Matthew Waterhouse has been playing his character for longer than William Hartnell did.
William Hartnell only played his character for a couple of years.
It's about 5.
Yeah, there's been a lot of...
it was 10. Because he came back for the 3 Doctors, which was the 10th
if you're
anniversary.
Counting that, yeah, fine, whatever. Can we really count that as playing his character, though? Yeah, I guess we can. There's been a ton of Adric content on Twitter recently. Like, I don't know, I've just been scrolling through, and there's like Adric everywhere.
People are having some sort of Adric revival when we should all just admit Adric was one of the worst companions we've ever had.
We should admit that.
And that if there's been any redemption in a Big Finish, it's been due to the fact that Matthew Waterhouse learned to act A, and B, that Big Finish has actually good writers. And not because the character of Adric was anything special or good.
I did put Full Circle on my list of, like, when we go back and revisit earlier episodes, that's one I want to go to.
Oh, no.
Yep.
Oh, no.
It's all coming full circle. Full circle, baby.
And cut. But Clara meets with the doctor, and he basically tells her that he's going to die soon. She's like, you got a regeneration, though. And he's like, nope. 10 regenerated into himself for one time. And I kind of feel like this is...
Did we see that on screen?
Yeah, that was the fake-out regeneration. That was one of the good cliffhangers that the reboot did, where the 10th Doctor started regenerating in the next episode. He just, like, regenerated into himself.
I guess, yeah.
I think this scene was kind of Steven Moffat already preemptively setting him up in case he didn't stick around for the end of the 12th Doctor, like, sticking in extra regenerations for the Doctor, because surely there would be fans around like, oh, but the Doctor's coming up on the end of his time. He's gonna run out of regenerations.
Right.
And then, like, you didn't necessarily have to have the regeneration into himself count, but I think, like, Steven Moffat intentionally decided to make it count so that in this episode he could explain away the extra regenerations.
And give a total of, instead of one new one with the regenerating into himself not counting, 12 new ones.
Or more.
And I just made that connection while watching this episode after all these years of, like, 12 regeneration cycles, 12 hours on the clock.
Yeah.
I didn't get that until, like, now.
Well, we get it now because Claude brings a Christmas cracker with her that she opens with the Doctor. And the poem inside is, I don't remember what poem it was an excerpt from, but the final lines were 11's hours over now, the clock is striking 12.
Yeah. And then as the clock, this is a little in your face, but, like, as the thing strikes 12 is when the Doctor, like, gets his new cycle and confronts the Daleks and stuff. Oh, no, yeah, in the scene where Clara goes back to her family, they're making a big deal about how the crackers are not the old ones with jokes in them, but are these new ones with poems in them. And they just have to accept that change.
It's not
it's a little
bad,
in your face,
but...
a little in your face about all this stuff. Like, accept change. Things are going to be different.
Yeah. Yeah. So the Doctor then goes up to the ceiling and tells the Daleks he's got nothing left. But then Clara pleads to the crack.
Has broken through.
Yeah, she pleads to the crack where she tells him, like, if you love the Doctor, which you should because he saved you so many bloody times and he spent 900 years keeping you safe here, you should, like, help him. And the crack closes and she's like, huh, weird. And then we see the crack open in the sky.
Yeah. I really like that scene. Another just scene that cements Clara as being my favorite of these new companions.
Well,
I say new, but it's already been almost 10 years.
Stick it out through the next... No.
Hey, I've had some out there opinions on this show before. Maybe I'll like season 8 Clara.
Season 8 might be a very contentious season on this podcast because I detest a lot of the decisions Steven Moffat makes in season 8.
I mean, I think I've heard that before. Is like Steven Moffat should have just left here and handed
I don't think
it
he
off
should have
to
left
whoever.
here because some of the greatest Doctor Who comes in series 9 and 10, in my opinion, and that's like all on Steven Moffat. And if he had left here, we would have never gotten that. And I think there were like really good episodes in series 8 too. I just don't like the decisions he made regarding Clara and unspecified other character who I'm not going to spoil yet. Not Missy. Just that I didn't like.
Interesting.
But the crack opens in the sky and regeneration energy flows out into the Doctor. And he's like, oh, new regeneration cycle. Here we go, boys.
Yeah,
and then the Daleks are like, the Doctor is regenerating. The Doctor is regenerating.
Because the Doctor at first is just, Clara asks him how he's going to stop the Daleks. And he's like, oh, I don't know. I'll make a big speech and I'll try and think of something and hope it works like I normally do.
And then one of the guys from the town comes in. He's like, have you got a plan? He's like, yeah, I got a plan. The Doc's like, they love it when I say I've got a plan. But yeah, he blasts the Dalek ship with the regeneration energy, which crashes it.
Yeah, the Doctor starts blasting like energy bolts out of his hands.
Yeah. I mean, I had this theory that like, or I think a lot of people actually have this theory that like the closer you get to the end of your cycle, the more explosive the regenerations get. Like just compare like through the cycle, like 1 to 2 was like pretty calm, just lying on the console floor, and then compare like it was 6 to 7 was getting more intense, still lying on the console floor though. And then like 9 to 10 was like setting the TARDIS on fire, and then 10 to 11 was like crash the TARDIS level, and then here we got blow up Dalek fleet.
Yeah, here's another theory about that is like the longer the show goes on, the
special
better
effects
special
budget
effects
goes up.
Well,
Yeah,
not necessarily,
wow.
but the better like effects get.
Wow, what an amazing theory.
No, but that is a really interesting theory, actually. And that's, I mean, I like stuff like that ties together like the making of aspect of TV with like the story aspect of it, if that makes sense.
And interestingly, the 12 to 13 regeneration sticks to that theory pretty well, actually.
Yeah. Well, not only the explosiveness of this one, but like when he actually regenerates, it's like in a split second, and he just like, he kind of leans back and like, he gasps and he goes, and then he's all of a sudden.
Yeah, that's like, I guess,
Peter
technically the first regeneration of the cycle, so.
Oh, yeah, true. I guess that resets it. But it's considering it's the same guy.
Yeah. Yeah, because this big explosive burst kind of resets him to a younger form, and he tells Clara, like, oh yeah, the regeneration's just starting, so I get reset to this form before the new guy comes along. She's like, no, you're good now. And he's like, nope, new guy's coming, I can feel it.
Yeah, this is all back in the TARDIS. The Doctor is now free to leave Christmas.
Yeah, because the crack's closed, so there's no fear that the Time Lords are going to come through.
And the Daleks are decimated.
And that was the one thing Clara was like, you got to change the future because the Doctor's grave is on Trenzalore. He's like, I can't. But that was one of the reasons why he was staying, was because his grave is there. But then he changes it now by leaving.
Right. And they're in the TARDIS. They're having this discussion about how he's about to regenerate. The Doctor's having.
Yeah.
Yeah, go on.
I was gonna say he gets a nice little speech here.
Yeah, he's having visions, and who else should we see but Rose? No, no.
Rose. Well,
no, it's actually Amy.
He gets this.
Let her go. Steven Moffat / Russell T. Check.
Yeah, let her go. Well, he gets this nice speech about how everybody always changes throughout their life. When you really think about it.
Yeah, a little in your face here with all this stuff of like, the crackers now have poems instead of jokes, and your grandfather who didn't change, and yeah, I don't know.
But I like this little speech that he has here where he's like, we all change, and you just got to remember the people that you were when you move in to your new body, I guess.
Yeah, I like it as well.
And then he says, like, I'll always remember when the Doctor was me.
Yeah.
Which he should, because he committed genocide like 15 times over and killed millions. Darkest Doctor.
Yeah, well, I'll have more to say about that next week.
Yeah, next week for sure. And then, yeah, he sees Amy. He's having this hallucination because all the kids in the town have been drawing pictures of the Doctor. And he has this hallucination that all the pictures are strung up around the TARDIS. And then he sees Amy come down and she says, like, Raggedy Man, good night. And the Doctor takes off his bow tie. And then blink, and then boom, Peter Capaldi.
And I forget what he says. He's like, how do you fly this thing?
Well, first he says, my kidneys. And Clara's like, what? And he's like, I don't like the color. And she's like, you don't like the color of your kidneys? And he's like, well, it looks like we're crashing. He's like, yep. And he's like, I have one question. Do you know how to fly this thing? And then it ends.
I like him already. And again, that's what I said about the 11th Doctor.
And you liked him.
Yeah.
So, brace for John Pertwee levels of increasing Buffon levels throughout the next three seasons.
I mean, I've seen the charts. Trust me, I've seen the charts. That happens with all the Doctors, except not to as much of an extent as the 3rd and 12th.
I almost feel like Peter Capaldi started playing it up and was like, hey, just leave my hair really long. I think it'd be really funny. I think they became self-aware of it almost.
I think so, because much as Matt Smith said that his favorite Doctor was Patrick Troughton, isn't Peter Capaldi's favorite Doctor John Pertwee?
I don't know if it's explicitly John Pertwee, but I know he's like a fan of like the first 4 Doctors together.
Yeah, I mean, I know he like watched the show growing up.
Yeah, he has like a signed letter from the BBC commissioner, I think, because he was like part of a Doctor Who fan club and he sent in a letter about Doctor Who and he got one back. He got a letter back. So that's why that's why Peter Capaldi was like really big into the fan community when he was the Doctor.
And still is.
Yeah. He's like, because he was like David Tennant, a childhood fan who basically got to live his dream of being
And
the
Chibnall,
Doctor.
and Moffat, and Russell T. all fit that role
Yeah.
as well. Although they're not actors, but
But like, I think Peter Capaldi was into it the most. Like, he even explicitly designed his costume to be really easy for kids to cosplay
yeah.
or dress up as.
Yeah, I've heard that before. I don't know if you mentioned it.
I think
yeah.
I mentioned it. And that's it. It's time of the Doctor.
Yep.
The time of the Doctor. It's a clock. 11's hour is over now. Clock striking 12. Haha. Steven Moffat, I see you. I see you. But yeah, I think this was a prime example of one of those moments where I think Steven Moffat, A, thought he was cleverer than he thought he was, and as a consequence, B,
Run, you clever boy.
overextended himself in just everything.
Remember last week when we were like, they could have done the Spider-Man 3 thing where they put too much in the episode, and they didn't.
Well, that was the thing, is that I even feel like all of this wouldn't be so bad if we had hints leading up to it, because like he brings back these things like Kovarian and the Silence, which are things we haven't seen for like a whole season.
Years if you were watching this in
if you were
real
watching
time.
this live, it'd be almost 2 years because of the split in season 7, or even more than 2 years that you've seen these things. Like if we had hints of this throughout the season, kind of culminating, or even just hints in like the last 2 episodes in this supposed like 3-part grand conclusion master plan thing, instead of it feeling like, because I think the reason why it feels so overextended is because it does feel a little bit like it comes out of nowhere.
I mean, it doesn't just feel like that. It does. It's like, we teleported down to the planet and boom, angels, and they're just there, and like...
Yeah, we haven't seen the Angels since Angels Take Manhattan when Amy and Rory left, which is like a year at least behind now.
Yeah. When you really... I hate to say this, but like when you think about it, that scene is... It's almost like a filler scene, right? Is like, oh, there's angels here, and we're in danger for like 5 minutes, but we deal with it, and now we're off to this other thing.
And that's, I guess, my problem with this whole episode, is that the actual core plot is pretty good with the Trenzalore and the planet. Like that, the core plot that relates to this season, so Trenzalore and the Doctor's grave on Trenzalore and having to defend that, I think is really good. And I think where the story falls apart is when he tries to implement or add in these scenes that tie this season to the previous seasons. Like the scenes, in my opinion, that stick to this season, those ones are really good. Where it falls apart is when he like overextends beyond this season.
Yeah, I guess I would agree with that.
I mean, if you'd watch this live too, and they just dropped Kavarian's name, can you imagine, like, Kovarian was like 3 years, almost 4 back now. Can you imagine saying, like, who the hell is Kovarian? Cracks in time, Todd is blowing up, what the hell? Like, for us even, it's, like, kind of difficult to remember these things. And we watched them all back to back in 3-4 months. I guess almost 6 total for his whole run, I think.
I think a little more than 6. I don't know, something around 6.
But 6 months, and it's like, oh, man, it's difficult to remember.
Yeah.
Imagine 5, 6, 7 times that length of time.
Right.
But I don't think it drags the episode down to be bad.
No, I really like this one. Again, this is my favorite of the Christmas episodes, probably because it has like the least to do with Christmas. So, and I'm just like Grinch levels of Christmas hating person.
You really like Husbands of River Song, man, which is my favorite Christmas special.
The more it like either doesn't have to do with Christmas or just like really denigrates Christmas, the better.
I think in terms of regeneration episodes, this is probably up there, but not the best, in my opinion. I'd probably put the 10th Doctors above this.
I know we ranked them all at some point, but I don't even remember my rank.
I don't remember. Caves of Androzani is really up there for me, as I think it is for a lot of people.
Is also really up there, as is the first.
10th Planet. Yeah, those are all really good.
Oh, as far as, are you talking about just the regeneration or the story as a whole? Because I wouldn't put 10th Planet as like the story as a whole.
Yeah, I wouldn't put the 10th Planet as a story as a whole above this.
But I'd put
I'd put like Legopolis and Caves of Androzani in terms of enjoyment above this, probably. For me, anyway.
Yeah, I guess. But remember, the best reboot episode. Sorry, the best new series episode. I'm not being sarcastic when I say that, by the way, if it sounds like it. I really am trying to call it the
Yeah,
new
that
series.
was by far the most sarcastic sorry I've ever heard on this show.
No, the best new series episode is worse than the worst classic series episode.
I'm trying to hang on. I'm trying to figure the math out on that one.
No. Just like the first time I made that joke, it's both not true and not funny.
Yeah, well, I'll take the worst of Doctor Who over the best of any. Hang on. Oh, I got halfway through that statement before
And
I
you
regretted
remember
it.
the massacre existed.
That's actually exactly what happened.
Well, just finish what you were saying. The best of any what?
Other television show.
No.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I got halfway through that statement before regretting it.
I don't think that Doctor Who is actually even close to the best TV has to offer.
No, it's not.
I mean, I really like it.
It's not even in my top 5.
No, it's not even in my top 100.
Jesus! Have you even watched 100 television shows?
Yep, because the best live action is by definition worse than the worst cartoon.
Oh,
and I've watched over 100 cartoons, so yes, it's not in my top 100.
All right, well, let's limit it to live action.
And it's probably like in my top 15, I guess.
Okay. Speaking of the massacre, there was a Twitter thread the other day that was like, what is the missing episode that people like least want to be returned? And I commented the massacre. And then the fact that no one said the massacre clearly indicates that the massacre, because I'm pretty sure you all forgot it existed.
Really, are you just twisting that to like make the massacre like a more hated episode than it really is?
No,
Some
but
people
think
really
about
like
it.
it.
But when have you ever heard someone go like, oh, I really want the massacre to be returned?
I've heard people say they really like the massacre, though.
Yeah, but have you ever heard them say
No.
they really want it returned?
No.
Have those people who really like it ever been like, oh, I really want to watch the massacre? Or do those people just like think it's a good radio drama and like, oh, TV episode? No.
Okay. Well, now we're trying to read people's minds, which didn't work the first 20 times I've tried
When
to
was
do it
the
at
other
least.
20?
I'm just kidding.
Wait
no.
a minute. When was the other 20 times? Oh, but we do actually, we have an email to respond to this week, the one that I've been holding over for this episode specifically, because it is about this episode. And so this is the email from JB, it's signed JB. Greetings, Dylan and Keon. I've been listening to your podcasts for some time, and I wanted to say how much I've enjoyed them. I actually discovered the Zenith podcast first before diving into Trust Your Doctor. I'm keeping up with the current crop of episodes, and I've also dove into your back catalog in random order, jumping from era to era and back again. Recently, I checked out a few episodes of Triple Play, and your synopsis/review of the Star Wars Holiday Special had me in stitches this afternoon. You will soon be finishing up Matt Smith's run, and I'd be interested in your take on a major plot hole that I've never heard any other Doctor Who podcast address, aside from my own. Spoilers, do not read the following until you've both watched Time of the Doctor. I call this the Clorodox TM. He's trademarked it, so I guess we've got to pay you royalties now.
Just beep it out. Just kidding.
Coming plan to get us to pay you royalties. Okay, the 11th Doctor, Amy and Rory are captured by the Daleks to investigate the signal coming from the Dalek Asylum. They meet Oswin, aka Dalek Clara.
Mm-hmm.
This version of Clara dies when the Daleks destroy the planet, after they said they wouldn't because it would be a sin to destroy all the insane Daleks or some such.
Right.
Sometime later, the Doctor meets a Victorian version of Clara during the events of the Snowman, and she also meets an untimely end. It's only when the Doctor sees her tombstone does he realize she has the same name and voice of Dalek Clara, so he goes off to solve the mystery of the Impossible Girl. Or quote, the Impossible Girl.
Following
unquote.
you.
I'm with you so far. He finds Clara again, aka Clara Prime, and they have some adventures together. They end up in the far future to the Doctor's final resting place on Trenzalore, which ends up being his personal time stream. The Great Intelligence leaps into the time stream to change all of history by undoing all the times the Doctor saved the day. In order to set things up right, Clara dives in and gets splintered in time. Her splinters interact with all the Doctor's incarnations, with the Matt Smith incarnation confirmed to be the last one. After all of her splinters set things right, the Doctor comes to her rescue, although we don't see on screen how they get out of his own time stream. Yeah, that happens between name and day. Sometime later, the Doctor and Clara find themselves on Trenzalore. After living a long life protecting its citizens, the Doctor is prepared to die of old age in the midst of a Dalek showdown. However, thanks to Clara's pleadings to the crack, the Time Lords grant the Doctor a new set of regenerations, and the Doctor doesn't die on Trenzalore. This results in there being no final resting place on Trenzalore and no time stream for Clara to leap into and get splintered in time. So all these versions of Clara never existed, which means there's no reason why the Doctor would ever seek out Clara, so Clara shouldn't even be with the Doctor after he regenerates into Peter Capaldi. Also, since there was no Dalek Clara in the asylum, there was no reason for the Daleks to kidnap Amy and Rory. Therefore, they never reconciled and ended up divorced, but are still alive and well in the early 2010s. I assure you that Steven Moffat never addressed this during the next 3 years. He was showrunner and head writer, yeah, I'm aware. Looking forward to reviews on the rest of Matt Smith in the upcoming Capaldi seasons. I've recently retired my own Doctor Who podcast of 6 years, and aside from, quote, The Complete Menagerie, unquote, and, quote, Reality Bomb, unquote, Trash Your Doctor is the only Doctor Who podcast I listen to. Keep up the great work. Thanks, JB.
Well, first of all, thanks, JB.
Yeah, thanks for emailing us with a interesting and thought-provoking question.
I hope those old episodes aren't too much of a slog.
Yeah, if you're jumping
I hope
around,
the new ones aren't too much of a
if you're
slog
jumping
either.
around randomly, you might get some wild varying in quality.
Yeah.
I think if you proceed in a linear fashion, there's at least like some semblance of improvement.
Well, there's a sharp drop-off after like the first 2 episodes.
Well, because we re-recorded those. Although I haven't actually backdated the Daleks episode, so thanks for reminding me about that.
I know, yeah. As for your mention of, or bringing to attention this Clara docs, as you call it, I don't know. I don't have an answer to that.
Well, I do. I have an answer, and I assure you, I'm coming up with this right now. But
okay.
But Clara's purpose wasn't to save the Doctor when she jumped in the time machine. It was to stop the Great Intelligence. And as we saw,
okay, yeah,
and we,
so,
okay, just keep following. Just stick with me. Stick with me.
All right.
As we see in the scenes where the Great Intelligence appears in the Doctor's time stream, he appears in the same places that Clara does. So presumably we can assume Clara just replaces the Great Intelligence in those spots.
Okay.
All right. But presumably the Great Intelligence must have replaced someone else when he came back through. Like that. He must, right? So if there's no time stream for them to jump into, they didn't. The Great Intelligence doesn't go back, and therefore Clara doesn't go back to replace the second Great Intelligence. But my interpretation of it would be that there's still someone there who does those actions. So there's still some Dalek in the Dalek Asylum who's like gone crazy that causes the Daleks to get Amy and Rory to get the Doctor, right? Maybe it's not a Clara Dalek, but there's still a Dalek there, right?
Uh-huh.
There's still someone in Victorian England, right? That's messing around. But if you'll remember, the Doctor seeking out Clara isn't actually what draws him to Clara. It's Clara calling him on the phone. And that, I think, could happen independently whether or not the Doctor's seeking her out or not.
All right. Okay.
And knowing what we know about who allegedly gives Clara the Doctor's phone number, I don't find it outside the realm of possibility that that happens whether the Doctor's seeking Clara out or not. So I think even without the time stream being there, the Doctor still finds Clara, and maybe the Asylum of the Daleks and Victorian Clara, the Snowman episodes or adventures play out slightly differently, but I feel like there's just other people in the Clara role in those episodes, and otherwise the adventures play out identically. That's
well, all right. I mean, I guess JB
pitch.
will have to weigh in if that's valid to him or not. Or if that's
also, there's also the alternate theory that here's the other thing, and this would be the Steven Moffat answer, by the way. Is that there's still the Doctor's final resting place still is on Trenzalore, because this is how I interpreted it before when I watched this through the first time. So the Doctor's final resting place still is on Trenzalore. It's just it now no longer is at the end of the 11th Doctor's time span. It's at the end of a much later incarnation of the Doctor.
Maybe it never was.
And that, or maybe the time stream always was like every incarnation of the Doctor, but because Clara had only met or was traveling there with the 11th Doctor, she was like time locked to only travel within the 11th Doctor's time stream. That's another theory that you could put forward.
Yeah, well, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think I am.
Great.
It wasn't confirmed that the 11th Doctor his grave was on Trenzalore. Although that's what he thought, because he knew that the 11th Doctor was going to be his final incarnation.
Yeah, and the other thing is that Clara, even having jumped into the time stream, didn't know that the 11th Doctor was the final incarnation, as shown in this episode, when she was surprised that the 11th Doctor told her he was the final incarnation, which is something you would think she would know if she actually knew all of the Doctor's incarnations. So there's a possibility that maybe it's like when the Doctors meet each other and they can't remember the events till the last incarnation's gone through it. Like maybe she can't remember future incarnations till she's met them. Who knows? That's another theory that you could put out there. There are many resolutions to this paradox. Pick your favorite, JB. Pick your favorite.
Or tell us why we're wrong.
Yeah, or just tear all our theories apart and tell us why we're wrong. You could do that as well. We actually also have a second email here that we got in the time span between the last episode and this one. This one's signed Dietrich? Dietrich? I don't actually know how to say that name.
Dietrich? Something
Dietrich,
like?
maybe?
I don't know.
I don't know if it's a CH, like ch or k, but I hope I didn't butcher your name too much. The subject line is Twilight Zone. Guys, a couple thoughts. I heard about your Blake 7 podcast from Horizon.com, and I'm enjoying it a lot. I'm at the beginning of Series 2B, and I had a couple quick thoughts regarding you possibly podcasting about Twilight Zone. One episode that I'd love to hear your opinions on, the one with the young George Takei, a Japanese-American kid who offers to mow the lawn of a World War II veteran. I guess it wasn't repeated much on TV due to the subject matter, so most people aren't familiar with it, but I found it pretty darned interesting. A story that I thought was TZ, but actually, quote, Alfred Hitchcock Presents, Series 2, Episode 18, The Manacled. This is a great story that features a character who seems like he could very well have been the inspiration for a certain character in Blake 7. I wouldn't want to spoil any more of it, but highly recommend that episode. Anyway, thanks for doing the Blake 7 podcast. Blake 7 is weird. I enjoyed it a bit as an adolescent, then just missed it and thought fondly of it in my 20s, and now a couple decades later, I seem to enjoy discussions and podcasts about the ideas and themes in Blake 7 almost better than watching it. Although I have little time to actually watch it. Thanks again, Dietrich, I don't know.
Well, first of all, again, thanks.
Yeah, again, thank you for emailing us.
And yeah, there's a couple interesting things here. I'm not familiar with this Twilight Zone episode, but that's really interesting because George Takei actually did go through Japanese internment here in real life. So, like, you got to wonder how traumatic it was to play like this kid who's being harassed.
It's possible that it was the opposite of traumatic. It could have been
cathartic.
There is definitely a field of psychiatry that claims or advocates reliving traumatic experiences in order to move past them or overcome them.
Yeah, that's within trauma theory as well. But it's also coupled with other things that make that difficult, which we don't need to get into. But yeah,
the other interesting thing is that I've been trying to get Keon to podcast about Twilight Zone for 5 years now, and he said no every time.
Now that there's going to be the new Jordan Peele Twilight Zone,
which is out now,
it's a great opportunity to jump on the bandwagon. I've actually watched quite a bit of the old Twilight Zone as well.
Maybe we could do one season of it, like just a season of Twilight Zone as part of a season of the as yet unnamed project.
Yeah, maybe.
We got to draw it out like we did with Triple Play, where we announced it for like 3 years before it happened.
Yeah, I guess.
I've never actually watched any episodes of Alfred Hitchcock Presents.
No,
although I have watched an episode of Twilight Zone, which is why I worded that like that.
An episode? Which one was it?
The one with William Shatner on an airplane.
I don't know which one that is.
He starts looking out the window and he sees weird things. It looked like they were doing a remake of it for the Jordan Peele one, actually. But he looks out the window, and they actually remade it for the Twilight Zone movie with John Lithgow. This is like one of the most famous episodes. He starts seeing things on the wings, and I don't remember how it ends, but everybody thinks he's like crazy until like the plane starts going down or something like that.
We should do a Goosebumps podcast.
Oh boy. You watch the Jack Black movies. That was that Jack Black, right?
I don't know. I read pretty much all the books as a kid.
But anyway, thank you for emailing us. I'll definitely check out... Well, I'll check out the Twilight Zone episode for sure, because I've actually wanted to watch Twilight Zone for a little while, so...
5 years.
Yeah. So, thank you. But yeah, if you would like to email us yourself, you can reach us at thedoctordecadavegetable.com, third time's the charm. Questions, comments, concerns, angry rants, love letters. Your thoughts on the 11th Doctor before our retrospective next week. Leave no qualms about whether we can read your mind by telling us if we read your mind or not. About if you want the massacre to be returned or not. You can find us on Apple Podcasts and Trust Your Doctor and Google Play. And you can find us on YouTube at Decorative Vegetable. Be sure to leave a rating if you like the show.
Check us on Facebook, Trust Your Doctor, like us on Facebook. Also check us on Twitter at TYD Podcast, and follow us on Twitter. Next time, we're going to be doing our 11th Doctor retrospective, but until then, the end.